we'll obviously watch the rehearsals, figure out if there's anything minor that we, ask if the director can change a little bit, or, if it'll help us or hurt us. And then we talk about shots with the director, and Paul and I'll rough in a kind of a rough idea, and then he'll actually massage it with the director, oftentimes while I'm either, off lighting or doing something else. And then I'll come back and, tweak it a little bit. And then Matt, we never put the cameras in a place where they're side by side, kind of competing with each other. We're very much kind of a single camera show that works in the B camera when we can. And Matt has this amazing ability to find these really interesting angles that work with the lighting, the sound, where everybody's already, going and standing and moving and whatever. But so that's, a lot of the frames that you see are B camera shots that we snuck in at the end that, that Matt's found on his own.
That's interesting to me. And as I watch the show, like, that makes total sense when you see some of those more interesting frames, or not even that they're more interesting, but they're kind of unusual, because I like this idea that you approach the show as a single camera show, but then you kind of have a B camera trying to snag like great, cool, interesting angles. Like that I think is a great use of a B camera. It's more than just coverage. Like, you're trying to get something unique and distinct.
Absolutely. And that's definitely a great way of putting it. We don't go out of our way to get a lot of coverage. I mean, the show has very minimal coverage as it is. It plays wide a lot of times, and they love playing shots for a long time. So that's the difference, in that we have a little bit of extra time because we don't have to do so much coverage, that we can find some of those interesting angles like that too.
Yeah, coverage is a big thing. I've been even in my own work, I've been thinking about that more and more, because it's like you go into these scenes and you think you're making a shot list, and you're like, all right, well, obviously I need an establishing shot, maybe a medium, some close-up, some details. And then you're like, do I really need all of that? Like, am I bogging my shoot day down with so many shots of coverage that I really don't need? And it's just it's been something that's been in my mind more. I'm like automatically writing down, wide, medium, close, when you don't really need it. And I think, especially with shows like Better Call Saul, because there's a lot of scenes that kind of live on a wide shot. It just lives there.
Absolutely. And that's what I literally hear Mike Slovis's voice ringing in my ears. Like, what's driving the story? Like, do you really need a shot, two sizes on somebody that, potentially could be kind of a passive character in a scene or whatever like that? So yes, that's a question we're always asking ourselves. Is it driving the story?
And how do you answer that question? You know what I mean? It's like, there's one thing to not get coverage. Well, I guess there's one thing to not have coverage after you edit it and making the decision, okay, we're just going to stick with the shot. But it's another thing to not even capture the coverage. I mean, then you're pretty much committed. Like, you're not getting a close-up if you don't shoot a close-up. So at some point, the decision needs to be made. I'd love to know kind of how you come to that decision. Is this something that you kind of approach each scene with the same kind of thought process?
Yeah, absolutely. And, what's happening in the scene, and, how important is it to get in and see somebody's emotion? Because, we don't do a lot of close-ups, and one thing that we have a real rule about is that we don't do push-ins on people. We do them maybe, 4 or 5 times a season. And so that when we use them, they really count, you know what I mean? But actually, ultimately, it's up to the director. When the buck stops at the after the show has been cut and they do their cut, and then Peter potentially comes in and tweaks a little bit, has that person captured the essence of the scene, and so ultimately they have to make that decision, and we're there to serve the directors, and ultimately, so really their say goes for pretty much everything.
Tell me more about why you've made the rule to not have those push-ins.
That was actually more, I think, more Peter and Vince, just saving, because it's such an overused move. It really is. And if you save it, it really means something. Like, I remember in season 3, was it? Yes, season 3. Chuck's hearing, we did like a couple of push-ins on him, and I think those were the only ones that we did the whole season when he was in that witness box. And man, they were powerful, just because it's not a language that you see on the show,
I know exactly the shot you're talking about. It's crazy, but that shot has stuck in my mind. And I didn't really know why until right now. Like that move, I must have just subconsciously realized that doesn't happen. And when it did, it was for an important reason. It really stuck out. But yeah, I seeing it in my mind as you're talking about it.
Yeah, no, it comes back. I mean, I've done how many episodes? 30 episodes since then, I think, or 20, 25, 26. And it does to me too. I literally picture the entire shot in my head. But those are the great ones that kind of stick with you too. And it's such a pivotal moment, for all the characters.